Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Holy Academy lecture, and this is for ACCA course under the knowledge part F3, and which is financial accounting paper. And this lecture covers chapter G, which is preparing simple consolidated financial statements. So my contact numbers, email and WhatsApp number is given here. Please take note of that. I am your NSM Sahul Hamid and giving NSMSH lecture on behalf of Holy Academy. So the contents of this lecture, we will be discussing about preparatory steps for simple consolidation of financial statements. We will understand the key terms, procedures involved in light of examples, practice simple consolidation from ACCA examination point of view. So we will try maximum use the examples as given in the ACCA study materials. Okay. Here we are seeing a sample group of companies. Which means parent company and subsidiaries. And before we go into the key terms definitions, it is better to see a group of companies which is this kind of model. And in India, the Reliance Industries Limited has many subsidiary companies. Reliance Industries Limited is a holding company, the parent company, and it has got so many subsidiary companies. As you can see from this, they are only the key subsidiaries, and there are plenty of sister concerns that this holding company has, and this is a good example of that. A sample diagram of group of companies, you can also say that a parent company and they will have many subsidiary companies. So here the parent company, that is the entity that controls one or more entities, that is all its subsidiaries. Subsidiaries means the entities that are controlled by another entity which is a parent company. So here we are going into the definitions of the key terms. Therefore, we know that what is group means a parent and all its subsidiaries coming as part of a group. Okay, so group means a parent and all its subsidiaries. A parent can be defined, a parent company can be defined as an entity that controls one or more entities, like the one we saw in Reliance group of companies. So parent company of the group of companies is the parent company. Subsidiary means an entity that is controlled by another entity known as the parent. So this group of companies, that means parents and subsidiaries system, protects assets of various properties from each other's liabilities. Like when there are many subsidiaries, so protects the interest, protects the assets of various properties from each other's liabilities. One company's it will be a liability, for another company it will be an asset. So this protects that interest by the parent company. The group of companies put together managed by the parent company is protecting the interest of each subsidiaries and the parent itself. Consolidation means presenting the results, assets and liabilities of a group of companies as if they were one company. Like for example, taking the parent company's financial statements and also taking the subsidiary company's financial statements, merging together, grouping together, and with the procedures, and we get the consolidated financial statements. So consolidation means presenting the results, assets and liabilities of a group of companies as if they were one company. From legal point of view, the results of a group must be presented as a whole, as one company. In a group of companies, the central company, called a parent, generally owns most or all of the shares in the other companies, meaning they are called subsidiaries. So generally they own most or all of the shares of the subsidiaries. Okay. So the rights and responsibilities of the parent, that can be called as holding company. So what are the rights? The key rights are holds more than 50% of the rights in the subsidiary company, and they have controlling power over the subsidiary company, and they are maintaining voting rights regarding the subsidiary company. Any board of directors voting rights, so the parent company hold more rights, more voting rights. The responsibilities, the parent company needs to report its financial by including those of the subsidiary company as well, since it holds 50% or more of the rights in the subsidiary company. Legal point of view, they are supposed to report as one company. Okay, and responsible for tax obligations. All the tax obligations also is fall on the responsibility of on the shoulder of the parent company. The parent company is liable for the sister concern, that means the subsidiaries, operation of business and management of resources in its location. They are the one responsible for it. Sometimes the parent company serves as a guarantor for the subsidiary in the financial requirements. If there is anything guarantee requirement, so the parent company becomes the guarantor for that. It happens sometimes. We'll be seeing into detail. But the portion covers, the syllabus covers for the ACCA F3 model, meaning financial accounting. So we don't go into so much legal detail beyond this, but we are going to see the accounting step by step information with the limited key terms on that we have seen in this. Okay, and then later on in the advanced level that we will be going into more detail. What are the issues, comes, and all these things we will be seeing there. Let's understand the term control in this part of this lecture relating to consolidation of financial statements of a group of companies. An investor, in this we can relate to a parent company or a holding company, being an investor, controls an investee, a subsidiary, when the investor is exposed or has rights to variable returns from its involvement with the investee and has the ability to affect those returns through its power over the investee. So this is a control, can be a full control or a joint control. Okay, so that is how we should understand the control. The control is the key point where it can give you a conclusion whether a company is a parent company or a subsidiary company, and whether it is having a right to govern their subsidiaries or not. So the term power can be understood like existing rights that give the current ability to direct the relevant activities. The parent company typically maintains financial control, although the subsidiary benefits in turn with increased access to the funding sources and a reduction in expenses costs. So this is the idea that the parent company maintains full financial control and the subsidiary benefits from this kind of uniform control and centralized control, because it will lead to reduction of expenses also, cost also, and there are so many duplications that can be avoided within a group of companies. The degree of control the parent company chooses to exert will determine a subsidiary's level of independence. So this is depending on the management, the style of management, the approach of management, and the holding of the parent company on the over the subsidiaries. So that is also will lead to decide on how the control should be there, whether it is a full control or joint control how it is to be done. For transparency purposes, a parent company will clearly define the financial and operational delegations of authority at the outset. That means at the beginning, it has to be clearly defined. That is important, because irrespective of how the control is spread, the responsibility, the sole responsibility of the liability of as one company, the reporting from the legal point of view lies with the parent company. That is important. Non-controlling interest. So it can be defined the equity in a subsidiary not attributable directly or indirectly to a parent. See, a parent is a holding company of that subsidiary, and though it is as if they are fully managing and as if it is one company, they are supposed to give the consolidated financial statement. However, the fact that some of the equity portions of the subsidiary concerns which are not attributable directly or indirectly to a parent, they will be called as non-controlling interest. And this has been defined and given details in IFRS 10 Appendix A. And let's see with some example also, and let's analyze a balance sheet broader category. That if you see the asset portions, so in the consolidated statement will include by way of added together the parent company's assets and subsidiaries assets. Either subsidiary 1 or subsidiary 2, all will be added together, same category wise, everything added together in the consolidated statement. If they are building, land, all the parent company, subsidiary company's land will be merged together, added together as one item. So that is what in the asset side. And when we come to the liability side, equity or plus liability side, the equity attributable to the parent directly will be there, and non-controlling interest, which we will see with some examples now, that portion will be there, and parent company's liabilities, all other liabilities other than the equity, plus subsidiary 1 and 2 liabilities will be there as one common statement. It will be there. Now we understand how, with an example, how the non-controlling interest can be reflected in this consolidated financial statement. For example, a parent company holding 60% of shares on a subsidiary company and the remaining 40% by others. For example, if the subsidiary company has 100,000 worth of assets and the parent company has contributed only 60,000 capital for that, and the remaining 40,000 capital is invested by third parties other than the parent company. So that the non-controlling interest portion comes into picture. Now let's go with some more detailed examples, explanations, so that we can understand correctly. So non-controlling interest, short name that in study material you will see NCI, is defined as a part of the net assets and net results of operations of any subsidiary which is a part of the holding company. For example, a subsidiary which is part of the holding company, and in that if there is any part of the net assets and net results, okay, and which is very important point here is that non-controlling interests are not owned directly or indirectly through any subsidiary's interest by the holding company. So only that portion of that subsidiary company's assets and net results of operations are become non-controlling interest if they are not owned directly or indirectly by the parent company, the holding company. NCI is the share capital of the subsidiary related to outsiders other than the parent company. Outsiders other than the parent company as well as any other subsidiaries within that group. So because if it is any other subsidiary within the group, it will be part of the consolidation, it will come as part of the parent company. But here we mean totally outsiders, and the reserves and profits of the subsidiary company also to be included in the NCA. Only that portion. We will further see an example in order to understand it more clearly. For example, parent company, P company, acquired 80% of equity shares of S company, which is a subsidiary company, which become, after acquiring, it became a subsidiary company. Okay. Now, the price at which the deal was done was $8 lakh, and it was done on 1st January 2021, for example. And the subsidiary company, yes company, had equity shares of $8 lakh, and plus there are reserves and a surplus of earning has $60,000 more. So it is total is 8,60,000. You can understand that. From this point, if you are asked to calculate the non-controlling interest, so here is the table that we can see. From the particular, we have the share capital and we have the reserves, and the total is 8 lakh plus 60,000. So $8,60,000 is the total of the group of companies. And how much is the holding companies, and how much is the holding companies controlling interest, and how much is the holding companies non-controlling interest, is the thing that we can understand easily. 80% and 20%. So the 80% of the 8 lakh share capital is 6 lakh 40,000, and the remaining 20% is 1 lakh 60,000 non-controlling interest, and the reserves 60,000, out of which 80% is 48,000 and 20% is 12,000. Therefore, the total 6,88,000 becomes the holding company's controlling interest, which is 80%, and non-controlling interest become $172,000. So this is how we can calculate. Here we see the definition of a trade investment, or we can call it as a simple investment. An investment in the shares of another entity, that means another company, that is held for the acquisition of wealth and is not an associate or a subsidiary. Here it is different from a holding company's investment on a subsidiary, but here it is merely a purpose of investing, like a pure investment without having any control of the invested company. Okay, so this is just an accumulation of wealth, like our assets, to have that, but we don't have a control on the company where we invested. It is kind of simple or trade investment, like you are buying a company, Reliance company shares or Tata company shares in India. It doesn't mean that you have a control or you become a parent company of them. Okay, so that is the idea of a trade investment as compared to the investment of a holding company on a subsidiary. Okay, the overview of consolidation process, though we don't need to study in detail in this F3 financial accounting, but we have to understand this is the overall picture of where we end up, where we start and where we end up in the consolidation process. We see the accounting process, and then how do we close the entities each, and then how do we overall the corporate close, I mean the group closure of the financial reports, and then how do we do the reporting and disclosure. So for example, in accounting we study the general ledger, journal ledgers and all these things, sub ledgers we have, and maybe contracts, leasing and revenue accountings, various kind of accounting that we will be studying or we have already studied. That is separate. And now in the entity closure, we will see intercompany reconciliation first of all within the group, because we need to see if one company or the parent company is have a receivable from its subsidiaries, or it has got a payable to its subsidiaries, or one of the subsidiary has a payable or receivable from another subsidiaries. So these kind of reconciliation has to be done in order to cancel out so that the intra-group transactions are cancelled out. That we will see in detail hereafter. Okay, and then also the account reconciliation and the entity close management. So how do we close? How do we group all the balance sheet items, financial report items, all these things we do that. And then we come to the consolidation and then taking the notes and how do we conclude on the consolidation aspects. And then finally we go to the reporting and analysis, which is not the subject matter of this particular chapter. Except consolidation in this diagram, the other things are either you have studied already or you will be studying later. But what is important is that this is how the overall view of the consolidation process goes. Okay, and we end up with disclosure management. So where in this financial close governance, and there will be process controls and master data governance for financials and financial close management. All these things will be handled in an advanced study. We will be seeing it in detail. So in simple diagram, we can see consolidation steps, parent financial statements, and then we take all the subsidiaries financial statements together, and then we consolidate the financial statements. What are the step by step for this kind of consolidation? First of all, we combine financial statements of each group entity, that means parents and subsidiaries. We combine. And for that, we eliminate intra-group transactions and balances, cancelling out. That we will see in detail. How do we do? How do we calculate? We will see in detail. We have to eliminate the intra-group. I mean, within the group, if one subsidiary to another subsidiary, or parent to subsidiary, subsidiary to parent, any transactions, that has to be cancelled out. Okay, like contra entries that you have been seen in cash book maintenance, something like that within the things. And eliminate the parent's investment in each subsidiary and recognize goodwill and other business combination related to related adjustments. Everything that is within the group, if there is anything either goodwill or other aspects of combination, business combination, any adjustment, that has to be taken care. How the procedure, that we will have to study in this chapter. And allocate comprehensive income and equity to non-controlling interest. It is also one of the important points. See, for example, as we saw in the example, if you have 80% control and 20% non-controlling interest, that means if the group, if that particular subsidiary concerned earn some profit, out of the profit, how much has to be given allocated to the non-controlling interest portion. So how do we calculate that? These kind of things also need to be studied before we finalize the complete finance consolidation process. So this is what allocate comprehensive income and equity to non-controlling interest mean. Okay, as we saw the step by step, what are the key points in the calculation point of view that we should understand is these things. One is that cancellation and adding together and sum up and present. What is mean by cancellation? Cancellation of all like items internal to the group. Okay, reconciliation, internal reconciliation, and we cancel it out. We will see in detail. It can be like from receivables, payables, or share capital investment by holding company to the subsidiary. All these things will be there. Okay, and adding together same group of items of the balance sheet items has to be added together. Like for example, land, plant, equipment, and non-current asset items. All these things has to be like that. Liabilities items has to be grouped together and added together. All the uncancelled items will be added together like this for each category. And then sum up and present as if you are the That means the parent company owned everything, the group of all the properties owned by that name, that parent name. So the group of companies name. So that is important. As if that you own everything. However, then show the extent to which you do not own everything. That means non-controlling interest parts also clearly to be mentioned in the same statement as part of the full disclosure norms. Okay. Let's see this example. Just taking only one item from the balance sheet that we discussed now in order to understand the principle. Consolidate as if you own everything and then show the extent to which you do not. So in order to understand that, this example, there are two companies, Pleasant and Sweet. Pleasant owns 80% of the shares in Sweet, which means Pleasant is the parent company and Sweet is the subsidiary. We can understand that. Pleasant has a head office building worth $100,000 and Sweet has a factory worth $80,000. So consolidation means adding together in this scenario. Okay, when we add together, so we get $180,000 as part of the consolidated balance sheet under the heading land and buildings in the group accounts. But this is not so simple. So when we see this thing, we understand that the Pleasant owns only 80% of the shares in Sweet, which is we are not fully. So the group of company, as if it is one company, same fully owned. So we show that 1,80,000 worth of the assets in the balance sheet. But we are not telling the whole story. The consolidation statement must show the extent to which the parent company do not own everything. So we know that we have invested, the parent company has invested only 80% over the subsidiary company, that particular subsidiary company. So we don't fully own, though our consolidated statement present that as if that we own everything, but we have to mention, highlight somewhere how much worth of non-controlling interest in that balance sheet, in the consolidated balance sheet. So that is important. There may be, well, on one or more shareholders who own the remaining 20% of the shares in Sweet Limited. That from the story we can understand. These shareholders cannot visit 20% of the factory or tell 20% of the workforce what to do. See, for example, this scenario, understand that you buy a subsidiary company and there are 100 employees working in the subsidiary company and there are 10 stories building and you put 80% investment on that as a parent company and the remaining 20% someone else have invested. It doesn't mean that you can go to always control the building only 10-story building, that you just check only 8 stories of building, which is 80%, and out of 100 employees you select only 80 employees in order for you to control and leave the remaining 20% holders, shareholders, to come and manage the remaining 20 people. It is not like that. It is not possible to manage a company. So as a group of the company, the parent company, though you own only 80% of the shareholding, you have to fully manage that particular company 100%. And the shareholders who has invested on 20% only, they cannot entertain, they cannot be entertained with the control of some percentage. Okay, unless there is an agreement for certain area of concern that somebody have to take care. But still, for that kind of agreement, the parent company has to dictate, has to understand, and there should be a clearly written scope of work agreement on that. Okay, so it is very important. So this is what the part of non-controlling interest. Okay, so how do we do that non-controlling interest separately? Because though we fully 100% control that company, we show in the financial position that there is a non-controlling interest and it is separately mentioned in the equity section of the consolidated statement of financial position. So that is what here we mean by this example. Okay, let's see some more examples in order to clearly understand. Apple company owns 60% of the parent company, which means Apple company is the parent company, parent company is the subsidiary. Apple has non-current assets of $80,000, okay, and Pear has non-current assets of $50,000. So when we consolidate, there will be a choice, multiple choice, that which one is the correct statement. You will see that Apple $80,000 and Pear, that is 60% of, because Apple has invested only 60%. 60% of 50,000, which is $30,000, become $110,000. Should that $110,000 appear in the consolidated statement, or Apple is $80,000 plus Pear has put $50,000, and we are supposed to show as one company together, which is $130,000. Which one is the right statement? Naturally, we know that because Pear is a subsidiary of Apple, which controls all its, Apple is controlling all its non-current assets, not just only 60%. Therefore, it has to be the non-current assets worth of 80,000 of Apple plus the Pear company's 50,000, total together $130,000 non-current assets has to be mentioned as one in the consolidated statement. The 40% non-controlling interest is accounted for separately in the equity portion, that as we saw in the beginning, we will see it separately. So now we are seeing an interesting example of consolidation, cancelling the intra-group items. How do we do the cancellation of the intra-group items? Within the group, if there is any reconcilable items, so how do we do that things? Suppose Apple company has receivables of $40,000 and payables of $50,000, and Pear company, which is a subsidiary, has receivables of $30,000 and payables of $45,000. So simply, if these figures are given, that we don't have any intra-group items. But in the question, they give some clue or some information in order to give you some clue that there is an intra-group item which you need to cancel before adding together for the purpose of consolidation. So here it is mentioned that included in the above items, a due from Pear to Apple 5,000. That means for Apple there is a receivable 5,000, for Pear there is a payable 5,000. So it is simply, you have to understand from this point of view. So remember that consolidation means presenting the results of the two companies as if they were one. So we have to add it together after cancellation. So we cancelling the intra-group items before consolidation. So we have a one consolidated statement. There will be receivables and payables separately. Receivables in the asset side, payables in the liability side. So let's consolidate the receivables and then payables. So when we consolidate receivables, so the Apple company's receivable, which is 40,000, and from there we know there is a receivable of 5,000 because the question is given that from Pear. So that 5,000 is intra-group. So we minus that 5,000. We remove it. Plus we add the receivables of subsidiary $30,000. So we add together. So which means $65,000 is the consolidated receivables of the group. Then payables. We take the payables of 50,000 from the Apple, plus we add the payables of the subsidiary, which is $45,000. In that we know that there is a payables of $5,000 to the Apple. So that we have to deduct it, subtract it for the purpose of cancelling the intra-group item. So it becomes total $90,000. Another example. Apple company owns 60% of Pear company. Apple has receivables of $60,000 and Pear has receivables of $40,000. So Pear owes Apple $10,000. So Pear company has to pay $10,000. What are consolidated receivable? It's simple. So what we do, I'm just giving you a kind of method quickly to work out. So just Apple $60,000, from that the intra-group transaction $10,000 you minus it, and then Pears $40,000, then consolidated become $90,000. So simple calculation like that. Okay. I put in different color. So Apple, because it has to be minus the $10,000 from the Apple company. So here it is only the receivables is in the question. So the receivable portions of the Apple is affected by this $10,000 intra-group transaction. Whereas for the Pear company, it is affecting in the payable side. So here the question is asking only about the receivable side. So in this type of short answer questions, you have to work out only for that purpose. Okay, we know that there is a dual aspect, but here the question is asking about only receivable side. So that is why we take the Apple side minus the intra-group transaction and add the Pear side, consolidated is 90,000. So if the another question, or if the same question talking about the payables. So the Apple company owns 60% of Pear company. Pear has payables of 90,000, of which 10,000 is owed to Apple. Same question, but here the question is asking about the payable consolidation. So Apple company's payables is $120,000 and Pear company's payable is 90,000, from which that $10,000 has to be deducted, so that consolidated become 200,000. So this is how we have to see. So the control aspects between parent and versus subsidiaries. So we should understand little more clear some terms. The control is the most important point to consider while consolidation of the reporting as investments in subsidiaries. Control will involve the holding company or parent owning a majority of the ordinary shares in the subsidiary, to which normal voting rights are attached. See, normally parent company has more voting rights in the subsidiary company. Okay, so therefore the control is also more. There are circumstances, however, when the parent may own only a minority of the voting power in the subsidiary, but the parent still has control. Sometimes there may be chance, very rare, but the only minority of voting rights will be there, but still the company controlling authority will lie with the parent company. So that is what here we mean. We should understand that. So without further questioning, the students may understand that if it is a parent company, irrespective of the percentage of the shareholding, they have the control. You can understand. In the consolidated statement, as if that the parent company owns everything, you have to consolidate. And then in the when to maintain the disclosure norms, you have to say non-controlling interest items appropriately in the equity portions. Control can usually be assumed to exist when the parent owns more than half, that means more than 50%. So you can usually, even if the question does not say that he is a parent company, you can understand by the ownership of that percentage. I mean, the holding of this percentage. If it is more than 50%, you can naturally understand that that is a parent company or holding company. Okay, thus the voting power of an entity, unless it can be clearly shown that such ownership does not constitute control, these situations will be very rare. So if the question, if at all, it will be very rare. If it is clearly mentioned that they don't have the ownership, then it is totally a different thing. Okay. So some more control aspects. When ownership criterion does not exist, when parent owns 50% or less of the voting power of an entity, the parent has still power over more than 50% of the voting rights by virtue of agreement with other investors. So there can be an agreement so that they have the voting rights and control over the subsidiaries. And they have the power, the parent company has the power to govern the financial and operating policies of the entity by statute or under an agreement. By statute means legal mandatory requirement, okay, for the parent company to manage the financial and operating policies. And also it can be as as part of the agreement when the holding company takes that subsidiary. To appoint or remove a majority of members of the board of directors. So the control power means they can appoint or remove majority of members of the board of directors or equivalent governing body. Any governing body of that subsidiary, they can appoint or remove the directors. And to cast a majority of votes at meetings of the board of directors. If the board of directors convene a meeting and they can cast a majority of votes. IFRS 10, Para B86, procedures for consolidation of financial statements. Though we have already seen the steps to be taken care for consolidation, we just reiterate and repeat from IFRS statement. So let's read. Take the individual accounts of the parent company and each subsidiary and cancel out items which appear as an asset in one company and a liability in another company. So after cancelling out, then we add together all the uncancelled assets and liabilities throughout the group on a line by line basis. These are the things. For example, items requiring cancellation may include the following. The asset investment in subsidiary companies. Under the asset column of the parent company, there may be some investment in subsidiary companies which appears in the parent company's accounts will be matched with the liability share capital in the subsidiaries accounts. Like in the subsidiaries statement of financial statement, it will be given under the liability side, equity side as share capital by the parent company. Okay, so both will be cancelling out if it is depending on the amount. There may be intra-group trading within the group. For example, subsidiary company may sell goods on credit to parent company. So in such case, parent company would then be a receivable in the accounts of subsidiary company, while subsidiary company would be a payable in the accounts of parent company. So both will be cancelling out. We'll see the graphical representation in order to understand that. So parent company has just bought 100% of the shares of subsidiary company. Below are the statements of financial position of both companies just before consolidation. So one side we have on the left side we have parent company statement, and on the right side we have subsidiary company statement of financial position. So under the heading of assets, there are investment in subsidiary and then receivables, and then on the equity and liability side, share capital is mentioned. The balance sheet is tallying 80,000 to 80,000 assets and liabilities side. Similarly, on the subsidiary company balance sheet, receivables 20,000, cash is 30,000, which is 50,000, and share capital, because the same amount of the investment made by the parent company is as mentioned as in the liability portion as a share capital 50,000. So both balance sheets are individually tallying. Now we have to consolidate. For the consolidation, first we are cancelling out, as we have seen in the graph, that this investment in subsidiary is cancelling out the share capital investment in subsidiary in the books of parent company is cancelling out share capital given in the under the liability side of the subsidiary company. After we cancel out the remaining item, we need to just adding together. So if receivable is 30 and this side receivable is 20, so 30 plus 20, which is 50,000, and the share capital is 80,000 in the parent company, and in the subsidiary company 50,000 is already knocked out by cancelling out treatment. So remain is share capital 80,000. and cash is 30,000, which is there in subsidiary company sale. So all these three items which are accumulated will be appearing in the consolidated balance sheet, the group balance sheet. Okay, now another example of cancelling out intra-group trading. So here, from the study material, we have taken two balance sheet, which is one from parent company, another one is subsidiary company, but we put it in a table form with different column so that you will understand and see the corresponding items side by side. So the third column will be for the group consolidation figure. And then we will see in the last column the working for group consolidation, what is needed, why, clarification, and all these things. So here is the statement of financial position, balance sheet item. First, we get the non-current assets, and where there is property, plant, equipment, and then investment in shares in subsidiary company, and then current assets, inventories, receivables, and the receivables, there are two items. One is subsidiary companies, receivables from subsidiary company and receivables from others, and then cash at bank. So we see cash at bank, and then total assets are total. Then equity side, ordinary shares, retained earnings, and then bank overdraft. Look at that, bank overdraft is from the subsidiary company, whereas the cash at bank is at the parent company. And payables to parent company, if you see this, receivables subsidiary company, payables to parent company, and then payables others for others. So total equity and liabilities are total. Now we are supposed to consolidate. See, cancelling intra-group items. What we do, we take the investment 40,000 shares at $1 each in subsidiary company at cost, and where we go and see in the subsidiary company's balance sheet equity of ordinary shares, which is 40,000. So same, these both are cancelling out as intra-group transaction. And then we take the receivable side, subsidiary company is 2,000, and in the payables parent company is 2,000 on the subsidiary balance sheet. So this will be cancelled out. So if you see this thing, we have knocked out that 40,000 and this 40,000 and this 2,000 and then this 2,000. So we cancelled out. So the remaining item has to be adding together, 35 plus 45 and 16. So all these things we added together. After cancelling the item, we add together. But we should note one thing. Normally, one may think that we have a cash at bank 1,000, that is our cash, the parent company's cash is with the bank, and another side from the subsidiary bank overdraft is 3,000, which means the same, under the same group, one of the subsidiary company has to pay to the bank 3,000. Why don't we merge it? So in this case, we should understand that they both are towards the third parties and they are different liability it contains, because one side it is a cash at bank, it may be with another bank, or even within the bank it is based on the different contractual agreement that the overdraft amount is still lying on that. So it should not be cancelled out, and nor it should be added together also. It should be cash at bank separately and overdraft position is separately. So this is the explanation. Cash at bank at parent company and bank overdraft at subsidiary cannot be netted off, as they both are falling into assets versus liability. One side it is an asset towards from third party, assets to be receivable from third party, and the other side it's a liability towards the third party. Okay, the share capital of a subsidiary company must always be a wholly cancelling item. Share capital is always the share capital, because subsidiary company and parent company, so the parent company share capital will remain there, but subsidiary company share capital will be knocked out in order to be merged. Okay, there may be some intra-group transaction with some differences. An item may appear in the statements of financial position of a parent company and its subsidiary, but not at the same amounts. The parent company may have acquired shares in the subsidiary at a price greater or less than the face value. That means either at a premium or at a discount. Okay. The asset will appear in the parent company's accounts at cost, while the equity will appear in the subsidiaries accounts at par value. So let's understand what is the impact on this. Even if the parent company acquired shares at par value, it may not have acquired all the shares of the subsidiary. So the subsidiary may be only partly owned. What is the issue it raises? So we should understand. In the first case, this raises the issue of goodwill. So when the shares are bought at a premium and while the investment is at par value recorded in the subsidiary company, there is a difference between the cost and the actual face value of the shares. So this raises some calculation of goodwill in the consolidated statement. And in the second case, if the parent company acquired shares at par value, it may not have acquired all the shares of the subsidiary. Suppose 80% only or 60% only, then this raises the issue of non-controlling interest. So if they are investing 100%, so they are controlling fully. But if they are not investing 100%, maybe 80% or 60%, though technically the parent company controls everything, that's why the consolidated statement must be presented as if it is one company. However, because of the fact that the investment is only for 60% or maybe 80%, the remaining 40 or 20% might have been invested by third parties. So the shareholders of that subsidiary company, with the investment of that remaining 40% or 20%, they will have some stake in the equity of that subsidiary company. That is the idea. However, just because they have 40% or 20% stake, they cannot control the company. The control is always with the parent company fully, 100%. Because there is no that such kind of thing that you come for 80% control and I go for 20% control. It cannot be done. So if there are 100 employees, it doesn't mean that parent company will employ 80 people and the third parties who have invested 20% of the capital of the subsidiary concern will employ 20 people. It is not possible like that. So control, everything lies with the parent company. However, in the financial position, there is a non-controlling interest of that worth of that 20% from the equity and the reserves and also the retained earnings, etc. All the earning shares, everything, revenue portion belonging to that amount of that capital. So that is called non-controlling interest. We will see that what exactly that defined and with some examples. Let's first go with understanding the goodwill. The goodwill arising on consolidation is recognized as an intangible asset in the consolidated statement of financial position. This is what mentioned in IFRS 3 para 32. Okay, student must be thorough in calculation of goodwill. So in this ACCA examination, you need to be thorough in calculation of goodwill and non-controlling interest portions. So let's see. So the situations cashing goodwill arising on consolidation. What are the situations that could cash arising goodwill on consolidation? When the cost of shares not equal to its par value of the value of the subsidiary company shares, so then there is a chance of goodwill. And goodwill arising on pre-acquisition profits of subsidiaries. For example, we will be seeing that. For example, if you go on 1st of June to look at one subsidiary company and on behalf of your parent company, you are the boss or you are the consultant, and you just survey, take the accounts, collect everything, and you come to the board of parent company, present to them that yes, we can buy this, we can acquire this subsidiary concern. But by the time it takes, and you will also make market research, survey, everything, it may take 3 months or maybe 6 months by the time you actually acquire that subsidiary concern. So what will happen during your study or from the date that you put a sign on the contract that you are acquiring the subsidiary company to that date, and from the date that you have collected the balance sheet for studying purpose, and there may be some pre-acquisition profits on the date of that consultation. So all such pre-acquisition profits will create goodwill in order to take it into consolidated financial statement of the group. So another point is difference between fair value and carrying value of the net assets of the subsidiaries. For example, carrying value like building, land, plant of the assets and all these things, you carry them into your as a group in order to consolidate. But however, in your analysis, you got a fair value of that property, what of the subsidiary concern, based on which the taking over or the holding deal has been signed on. So then there is a difference between the fair value and the carrying value, which we will see with some examples hereafter. That also will create a goodwill. And similarly, difference of consideration value transfer and not net acquisition date fair value. What is that meaning is that for considering the holding to take the company subsidiary as a holding company, you become a parent company, you will consider some amount to be transferred to the subsidiary company, considering the worth of that subsidiary company. Okay, but there may be a fair value calculation, but there may be a difference on your considered value, because which will come, consideration value comes always after a negotiation, plus minus will be there. So and the fair value will be there, so the difference can make out a goodwill. Let's see one by one with some examples. P company, when I say P company, S company, P company remains as a parent company and S company as a subsidiary company. So let's understand that. So because we can quickly go through all the examples. So parent company purchased all the shares capital, which is 40,000 at $1 shares of S company for 60,000. So the par value is 40,000, whereas the consideration value or maybe the purchase value is 60,000. So there is a difference in cash. The statement of financial position of P company and S company prior to the acquisition. I highlighted that the term prior to the acquisition. That means this amount transfer has occurred after the balance sheet, the figure given in this question is obtained. So after that only that actual transfer, purchasing of the capital has happened, the acquisition has happened. So keep that in mind. So therefore, if you see the previous statement given here, the parent company property, plant and equipment is 100,000 and subsidiary is 40,000, and then cash at bank with the parent company is 60,000. So total assets, and then equity and liabilities, share capital is 160,000 of parent company, 40,000 of subsidiary company. So the total. So balance sheets are there. Now what we here we are. So if we take that the cash at bank 60,000 and we're doing the consolidation, the par value of that shares, which is 40,000, goes to subsidiary company, and the remaining 20,000 is created as a goodwill. So in the consolidation, we knock out I mean, we cancel out that 40,000 to the par value of the cash at bank, 40,000, and the remaining 20,000 goes to the goodwill. Okay, instead of cash at bank, so we will create a goodwill amount 20,000 in the consolidation. Therefore, the total 60,000 asset in the parent company is 40,000 is now going to the subsidiary company and it is cancelled out, and the remaining 20,000 goes as a goodwill in the consolidation. So that is idea. Okay, and then the remaining items are added together. Note that in this presentation or anywhere, so the total horizontally you calculate after the knockout, but the total assets and total equity you should not just add it together, because here it is purely the vertical total. So therefore, okay, so that you should understand that. So you are not adding together like 160 plus 40 and that so that it should become 200. No, it is only this total. Okay, it is only this total, and similarly it is this total. So goodwill arising due to pre-acquisition profits of subsidiary. Here, in case of S company was purchased sometime after incorporation and had earned profits of 8,000 in the period before acquisition, its statement of financial position just before the purchase would look as follows. So, supposing the parent company deciding on acquisition of that subsidiary company, they got the balance sheet, but prior to the actual acquisition, they got earned profits of 8,000. Okay, sometimes after the incorporation, so they get the balance sheet with the total assets of 48,000, where share capital is 40,000 and retained earnings are 8,000. Therefore, the total equity and liabilities become 48,000. In this example, if P company now purchases all the shares in S company, it will acquire total assets worth, based on the previous example, if they buy for $60,000. So here we get the difference to the cost to the actual payment. The parent company's cost is 60,000, whereas the subsidiary company's cost is only 48,000. So the remaining is 12,000, which is a goodwill calculation. So that we have to take into consideration. Because why? Because any pre-acquisition retained earnings of a subsidiary company are not aggregated with the parent company's retained earnings. In the consolidated statement of financial position, the figure of consolidated retained earnings comprises both the retained earnings of the parent as well as the post-acquisition retained earnings of only of the subsidiary companies. So, we will see another example. P company acquired the ordinary shares of S company on 31st March 2021 when the draft statements of financial position of each company were as follows. See, why I highlighted that when the draft statement, that means the presented two balance sheets, given one of the parent company, another one of the finance subsidiary companies, or the draft statements before the acquisition, the companies. So what we should take care, we have to read it carefully if there is any item that can raise for goodwill. So let's understand that things. So in the non-current assets, investment in 50,000 shares at the cost of 80,000, and current assets are mentioned 40,000, so total is 120,000. Similarly, in the liabilities portion, equity liability portion, ordinary shares 75,000 and retained earnings 45,000, so 120,000. In the on the right hand side, in the subsidiaries, the draft statements were saying current assets worth of 60,000 and equity 50,000 ordinary shares of one each, retained earnings. So this is a similar item. This is the similar item, 50,000 shares of shares of Wing company at the cost, but the cost value is 80,000. They paid with the premium, okay, but whereas here at the par. And retained earnings of this company, subsidiary company, is 10,000. Okay. Now, in order to calculate the goodwill, we have a template or formula given by IFRS 3. Let's watch, let's see that, read out that thing in order to understand and use this template to calculate the goodwill. The technique to adopt here is to produce a new working goodwill. The pro forma working is set out below. So, goodwill calculation. Consideration transferred. In this example, consideration transferred is 80,000. And less, what are the items to be added together in order to reduce from the consideration transfer? Ordinary share capital, okay, and share premium and retained earnings at acquisition, whatever this thing. So let's put the figures. So let's use this IFRS 3 template and apply consideration transfer. We have seen that 80,000, which is the in the parent company's financial position as investment in 50,000 shares of Wing company at cost. And what are the items to be deducted? Less value of identifiable assets acquired and liabilities assumed. So what are the value of identifiable assets acquired and liabilities assumed? So under that, what they buy is ordinary shares capital 50,000 and retained earnings at acquisition is 10,000. So total 60,000. So then we arrive at goodwill of 20,000. Now we take this goodwill amount and we knocked out this 80,000 and 50,000 and 10,000 and the difference, which is 20,000, we take it as a goodwill for the purpose of consolidation and we to the consolidated statement. Now we just add up together under the assets, non-current assets, we got that goodwill arising on consolidation. So we take that goodwill. After that, the current assets, we have the current assets of 40,000 under the parent company and we have the current assets of 60,000 under the subsidiary company. We add together and so we add 100,000. And in the liability side, the same, because the subsidiary concern, all these things are already cancelled out. So the remaining in parent company of ordinary shares and retained earnings 45,000 will be as part of the capital and reserves as an equity portion. So we get the consolidated balance sheet tally. Thanks for your attendance. My WhatsApp number is 8675353 and we will continue in my next part of the lecture, the remaining portion. Thanks for your attendance. My WhatsApp number is 8675353 and we will continue in my next part of the lecture, the remaining portion.